学生们好, welcome to our third lesson for our first unit on reflections. But before we go into reflections, I wanted to clarify the steps into doing translations, as I realized that what I have on the PowerPoint is a little bit different from your experience when you do translations on paper. So I wanted to lay out the steps for translations to help each other out. The first thing to translations is the trick is to translate each vertex according to the translation that's given to you. Then after we have the vertex down, the images of the vertex, we would then connect them to copy the original figure. And then finally, we would label the image vertices appropriately with the prime symbol. So for example, let's take a look at our warm-up from today again. So we have our figure that we wanted to translate down 3 and left 4. So the trick is here, let's start with the vertex A. So where A is, we're going to go down 3 and to the left 4 and plot it down. So that's where our image of the point A would be. Then we would go around to, say, B. B, again, we trace that down 3, left 4, and we would plot that there. So that's where B would go. And we would repeat the same process for each vertex. And so now here is C, and here is D. Some of you may have realized that we can basically start with one vertex, trace its translation, then basically copy the original figure. And that way works too. So then once we have our image plotted and traced, then we can put down our names of our images, A prime, B prime, C prime, and D prime, and that would be how we know we've done the translation. So hopefully this helps with clarifying how translations work on paper. Okay, so let's head back to our original goal today, is talking about reflections. So our third learning target is I can reflect a shape over the line of reflection. So again, we're going to break it down to 2 parts, because we have to first get an idea of what a reflection of a shape is, and then we'll look at reflecting over certain lines on the graph. And so we'll break it down again with EQ1 and EQ2. Here are our language objectives. You're going to be able to explain your understanding of reflections. 2 sentence frames that we might be using is reflections are like blank over a blank. And another would be the figure is reflected over the figure is reflected across the line blank. So let's first start with our first EQ1, is how our figure is reflected in general. So let's take a look at this again from our warm-up from last week. Our triangle ABC, going from that to our triangle A prime, B prime, C prime, we realize that there's a flipping motion. That is, if we were to fold the graph in half, then the triangles will land on each other. And we see that if we fold right across the y-axis, then that gives us the perfect split. So here is a paper version of the graph that we have from our example, and I hand drew it. Now, what I meant from folding, notice that when I'm folding down, I'm folding right at where along the y-axis, and if you were to see my folding, my ABC triangle lands right on my image. And that's exactly what a reflection is. It tells us where to fold our line, and our image comes from flipping it, the original, across. And that's how we get our A prime, B prime, and C prime triangle.